Okay guys, today I'm going to show you how to get started with your mandala design for your color wheel. You're going to need the following supplies for your project. You need a pencil. I grabbed the 2H out of my supply bag. A pair of scissors. This I didn't give most of you. If you don't have scissors, you're going to have to let me know. I'll see what I can do. But a good pair of scissors. You're only cutting paper, so they don't have to be like the most amazing scissors ever. You will eventually be using the colored pencils from your supply pack. And I like to keep them in rainbow order just because it makes me happy. So anyway, you guys can keep your pencils on your desk however it floats your boat. But you also have a white one and a black one, and the major colors for yourself. Out of your paper folder, you should start by grabbing a plain white piece of paper. You can do this project, you can finish it on a piece of the thicker drawing paper if you still have it. And we're gonna start by creating our design using tracing paper. I did not include this template in your folder at the beginning of the year, but I am going to put this PDF with the design. So if you need it, you can print it out. You may, if you're not able to print this, you may have to fiddle around with the folding of the tracing paper a little bit. Let me show you how you're going to set up your paper. And you're going to start by putting the tracing paper over the template like this, okay? And then I'm going to use my 2H pencil to mark the very center, and I'm going to put a little tick mark on each axis all the way around the circle. Now, you can, if you have a lot of tracing paper lying around in your folder, which you might, I think I gave everybody 3 pieces, you can play around with this and try to do it freehand, or you can try to create a design all on your own. I'm going to attempt a freehand design. This is what I like to refer to as the snowflake method for creating rotational symmetry. So you're going to see I'm going to start by folding my paper in half so that tick mark, center point, tick mark are all on the crease. Then I'm going to fold it in half again so it has quarters. The reason we have to have a certain number of sections, 12 to be exact, is because our mandala design is also going to double as a color wheel. And in order to do that, you want to have 12 sections. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I am going to fold it so that, and you might have to put your thumb on the very center part. I'm going to fold it so that this tick mark lines up with that tick mark. See the tick mark here and the tick mark there, so that they line up. And I'm going to fold it like that. And then I'm going to fold it back the other way so that it goes back like this. If you don't have tracing paper to do this, that's okay. It'll work with regular printer paper. It just might be a little harder to do. And now I'm basically going to make a snowflake. And the snowflake is going to have 12 orders of rotation. So if I open this up all of the way, it will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sections to it, okay? Instead of opening it up to show you that, I am going to simply start by cutting myself the snowflake. Now, first thing you have to think about is what you want the outside shape, this shape around the snowflake or the design, your mandala, to look like. You can make it square or you can make it round. You could go crazy and make it scalloped or jagged or irregular. It's completely up to you. But I am going to show you a simple round design. And then before I finish making this video, I'll put in a couple clips of other types of designs. So to make the outside round, and this was not done perfectly, I'm really just gonna cut across like that, so that when I open this up all the way, it ends up being round. And you can see it's not quite perfect, that's okay. If you wanted it to be scalloped, you would just go a little more dramatically like this, so that as you open up the design, the outside shape is scalloped. And if you want it to be square, you would just cut into a straight line. All right, so what I just finished doing was cutting up 3 different versions of snowflakes. And let's start with the first one you saw in the time-lapse video, which ended up looking like this. It's a pretty simple, basic snowflake. It does have the 12 orders of rotation, but it has a rotation and a reflection repeated 6 times. So this segment here actually gets split in half. If you can't see it right now because it's on the tracing paper, that's okay. I'll show it to you in more detail when we lay it out on paper. So that was the first design. And you can see I kind of ended up with like a heart effect and some weird little circles and a very interesting outside shape. I would say one of the best tips I can give you is to be considerate of the outside shape, and the more paper you remove, the prettier your design will be, okay? The second one I did was very, very linear. You might have seen that I cut a straight line on an angle off of the center part of the snowflake once it was all folded up, and that's what created this little starburst in the center. And then it just has a linear design, and the whole thing comes together to look like a star. And the third one, I was going for something that was just a little bit more representative, and I started out with like this scalloped edge, and it reminded me of clouds. So what I ended up doing was creating clouds in here and little suns. They're really hard to see. Maybe I would have been better doing something like a burst or something in the center, but I just thought it was kind of a cool design. Now, if you come up with something like this, you can certainly adjust and redo it and come up with something that fits. So like, I wouldn't choose this design because I'm not thrilled with the way it came out in the end, but I do like what I was on to. So I might choose to try this one again to do some sort of like star thing in the center with clouds around the outside. The way I did it this way, it's too busy. So I'm gonna scrap this design. This design I think came out pretty cool. And this design did as well. So I am going to actually choose this one to show you the rest of the project. And you can see it got a little beat up, and because the tracing paper is thin, I don't love this shape, so I'm gonna show you how you can modify if there's a part that you don't like. But I wanna show you the next step, which is tracing it so that you can put it onto paper. So the next step is you take a piece of tracing paper, or you can take the final piece of paper that you're going to draw it on. There might be an extra step here if you decide. And you lay your design down like this, and you are going to have to very, very carefully trace around the tracing paper. You want to keep it all in one spot. So this might be a point at which you would want to pull out a little bit of tape to gently tape your design down. But I'm going to work on it very, very carefully. And I'm really just tracing onto the paper the basics of what I've got. And it's not a big deal. If it gets messed up, you're just gonna fix it. right? So here we have the little heart designs going in, and you'll notice I'm leaving this section out, but I'm gonna put a mark on my paper wherever I come across one of the tick marks that one of the folds in the tracing paper that represents where those tick marks were originally. So as you kind of go through this, you'll see, I mean, interesting, I'm getting like a little arm cramp from holding the tracing paper down. So I am not working in a space right now where I have tape. So, you know, you do what you can. I'm gonna turn the paper so that my arm doesn't have to like rip off my body to hold it down. And I'm using my 2H pencil to do this because I don't want the pencil to become part of the design. I want it to kind of disappear into the design before I finish. So I'm going to, I want the 2H so that it's nice and light. So I finished tracing this. And then I'm going to do the outside shape. And I may tweak that a little bit because this is my mandala, it's my design. I can tweak some of this stuff. You just don't want to lose the effect of rotational symmetry. That's the point of the whole mandala concept. So you can see I'm putting in the little tick marks for the folds, and here's my last shape. Now I'm going to go around and just kind of lightly put in the outside shape of my mandala. And the way I cut it, there's a dent there. I'm just ignoring that dent, and I'm making it round over that spot because I don't like the way it came out there. So I'm just going to adjust it. And then once I finish getting it on the paper, I can use my eraser to further modify it. I can erase and revise as much as I'd like. So you can see as you kind of progress, it gets a little bit easier to do this. And now I'm going to remove this, and you'll see there's my design. Now, all you need at this point is a straight edge. So I'm going to take a piece of paper and fold it in half, one of the thicker pieces of paper in my folder. And I am going to line the tick marks up. And you might have to just adjust and modify a little bit if your design got a little wacky. But you can see how I'm going to put in the lines that represent where those folds were so that I can see 12 segments in my design, one for each section of the color wheel. In your assignment, you will see the final version of this where I will label in all the colors and in the order that they go so that you can see. But you also should do that as you work on the project. So you'll have the final to use as a reference, but I'll also show you how to lay out the color wheel and the colors. So now you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 segments, okay? Now I'm going to show you to lay out the colors. Actually, I'm going to clean up a little bit on here. So I'm going to go to time lapse and work on cleaning up. So there's my mandala, pretty cleaned up, all right? Is it perfect? No. Does it have to be? No. This is not something that you have to bust out rulers and compasses and protractors to do. It is supposed to be relaxing and meditative. It's not supposed to get frustrating and crazy. So now that I kind of have my design laid out, I am going to label the different sections so I know what I am coloring where. So I am going to start with red at the top. All right, I'm gonna erase these numbers. You don't have to put those numbers in there. That's just because I was showing you it had 12 segments. If you don't have 12 segments, now's the time to catch yourself, because you won't have enough segments for your color wheel. So the way you figure out where each color goes is you can either copy off of the one that I've posted with the assignment, the finished one of this, or you can just think about it. So red is always opposite of its complement, which is green. Okay, and then the next color over from red is going to be red orange, and then orange. When you are talking about colors, you always talk about the primary color first. The primary color, when you're naming colors, the primary color always comes first. So red, red, orange, orange. And then over here, we're gonna have yellow, green. And then over here, yellow. And then here, we'll go yellow, orange. Okay, and then I'm gonna work my way around. If you're not sure where to go next, the complement of yellow is directly across from it, and that's violet. The complement of orange is blue. So that's directly across from orange. And then blue mixes with blue violet. And red violet. And then over here, blue, green. Now, how do you have to color this? For this assignment, you are gonna have to have at least one section of each wedge that is the true hue, meaning the pure color. So if we're talking about red, it's pure red. One section that is a tint, which is the color plus white. And one section that is the shade, and that's the color plus black. Now, I'm gonna show you how to do that with the red colored pencil. And I'm gonna look at this segment. I am only coloring this segment red. And I'm gonna decide that the true hue is probably going to be this area back here, okay? And then I am going to make my shade here. I'm gonna put my hue in there and shade as this little outline, and then shade right here. And then I'm gonna put tints there, okay? And this, I'm gonna choose to leave white. So as I go into color, I am going to fill in the space. You gotta work on a hard surface to make this work right. But you go in here and you color until the space is as dark as it can get. Now, if you have really good colored pencils, it's actually easier because the pencils will have more oils in them and they'll be easier to color with. And then if you have less expensive ones, like the ones I gave you guys, there is more wax in the pencil and less oil. So I'm not going to continue filling this whole section. I'm just going to show you guys how to do a shade and a tint with colored pencil. So to go and create a shade here, the first thing you need to do is decide how dark do you want the shade to be. So I am going to attempt having a lighter shade out here and a darker shade in here. So I'll put more black on this puddle of red, if you will, and less here. So I take my black colored pencil and I'm just going to very lightly, because remember I want this one to be the lighter of the two, put black colored pencil over the red. So I'm layering them. This is how you mix colored pencil. And then I'm gonna go back over it with the red. I'm pressing pretty hard to sort of do my best to blend the two together like that. So now you'll see if I go right next to it, that is definitely darker. I mean, there's a little area right there where I might want to add a little more black, right? Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the same thing with this section, but I'm going to make it darker. So I'm going to put the red down in the shape like this. And then I'm going to go over it with the black, but I'm going to go just a bit darker than I did with the first section, the section above it. The key here is to put it down nice and smooth. You won't notice it with some of the darker colors in the color wheel, like red, violet, and blue. But when you're working with blue, orange, and green, you will definitely see it if you are messy or scribbly with the black, okay? Now I'm gonna go over it again with the red and just kind of use whatever wax I've got in that, oils I've got in the pencil to kind of smear it around. So you can see that this section is a little darker than this section. In order to create a tint, you do the exact same thing. So you go over it lightly with the red. And it's nice now that I've done the background, I can just kind of color and not worry about trying to stay in the lines there. And then I use my white colored pencil to go in over it. And I am pressing really, really hard. The colored pencil works to kind of blend and smooth. You may not see what I'm talking about on the video, but you will definitely see it when you are working on your own. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up coloring this. I'm just gonna color it in time lapse. Now here, guys, I'm interrupting the time lapse because guess what? I don't have a yellow orange pencil, which means I'm gonna have to very carefully use my orange and my yellow in layers to create that color. That's going to happen maybe a few times, I'm not sure. I know we have no yellow orange in our repertoire, but we do have yellow, we do have yellow green, we do have green. We have a blue green, but it looks more turquoise. So I'm gonna tell you not to use this one. Layer for the blue green, then you have blue, you have a good blue violet, you have violet, and and I think you might have a red violet. It's called raspberry. Yeah, it's up to you. If you think it looks okay, you can use it. I may not. But watch very carefully in this time lapse as I take the orange and the yellow and I layer them. And it's really driving me crazy that I don't have my pencil sharpener with me and I can't sharpen my orange pencil. But I'll be all right, guys. I promise. So I wanted to slow down here for the last segment. It's red violet. And the reason I wanted to slow down is because I know I said in my intro video that raspberry, one of your colored pencils, raspberry would work well. But I took a scrap piece of paper and tested raspberry on it. And there goes my pencil tip, so I wouldn't use that anyway. But I don't think it's a good compromise there. So instead of using raspberry, especially now that it's broken, I figured I would take the chance to show you guys the layering of the colors. So in slow-mo instead of fast-mo. So I took the blue and the red. I could also take the blue violet, the violet. And I think that's what I'll do. So I have the blue, violet, and the red. So I actually will probably need to use less red than the blue. And it seems like these darker colored pencils are a little bit more overpowering than some of the lighter colors. You may notice that when you do some of the lighter colors here, like the yellow and the orange, that the black is much more visible in it, obviously, than it is in some of the darker colors. But I just want to take a second and show you how the layering goes. So I'm going to start by going in here, and I'm not going as dark as I did in the violet section, but I'm going in and I just sharpened these pencils. So they're really sharp. You'll find that as the points wear down, it's actually easier to go in and shade to create smooth, continuous tones so that it looks like, so that you don't see scribbles and stuff. I think my favorite moment during this project was when the yellow became so dull that I could just use it almost like a marker. It had such a dull tip. So I'm going to show you in this section, now that I've got this light bit of purple down, violet. Now I'm going to go over it with the red, and you can see it's not as red as what was over here. The goal is to get a color that is right in the middle of purple, violet, and red, so that it doesn't look red to you and it doesn't look blue. Purple, violet. All right. So I think that now looks maybe a little too red. So I'm going to go over it again with the violet. And as I kind of layer the pencil on here, you know, it's faster when you're not layering because you can just press as hard as you want. When you're layering them, you have to move a little bit more slowly and methodically to get that saturation, the darkness of the color that you want. But now that I'm kind of getting there, now I'm pressing harder with each layer and using the oil and the wax in the pencil to move the pigment around. So now I feel like this time, again, it's like a little too red in this section. So I think I'm pressing really hard with the red. So now I think I'm just gonna go over it one more time with the violet and just darken it up a little bit. If you found that it needed to be darkened even more, you could even go over it with the blue. It wouldn't matter to layer 3 colors on there and have it really on there. So that's how you get the colors to mix. So I'm pressing pretty hard. Yeah, that's it. In the areas where it's going to be a tint, again, you just kind of go in, put the colors. This time I'm gonna make the purple a little darker because I know that that overpowers, that is what I want more of. Then I'm gonna go over it with the red. Go over it with the blue again. And now I can go over it with a light layer of black pencil. And then I think I will go over it with the red again. And the reason you layer is because as you layer it, the wax and the oils and the pencil are, I'm pressing pretty hard now, are moving the previous layer around and they're all blending together. If you were working with like super high-end colored pencils, they would actually come with a clear pigment pencil called the blending pencil. All right, so that's how you blend. I'm gonna finish the rest in time lapse. All right, so now that you're pretty much done with the coloring part of this, is the time to kind of like decide how you might want to enhance your whole project to really make it into a mandala. Now, this is the point at which I would suggest you grab your Sharpie, if you still have Sharpie left. And I would take my eraser and get rid of my tick marks and my labels, you know, because like they're a little bit of a distraction, so visually, and I only put them in there so you guys could see. So you take those off, do your best to really erase. If I hadn't pressed so hard with my 2H pencil, actually I'm not entirely certain I used the 2H I should have used. And just get rid of those extra parts. And then take your Sharpie, and I would start in one segment. Let's start with the yellow segment because I think that's where you're gonna see it the best. And you can begin enhancing your design. I would start by outlining the original pencil with marker. And now, in order to, you know, mandalas have a lot of pattern in them. I might ignore that line down the middle of the shapes. It'll show up visually because of the change of color. I might not put that in there, but mandalas have a lot of pattern in them. And so you can thicken some of these lines like this. You can add other elements to the piece. And as you kind of do this, I would stay in one segment and do that one so that you can very easily decide when enough is enough. So I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to put another dot inside of it. I'm going to go out here and make this border a little heftier. This is why it's nice if you do this project on the drawing paper, if you have some still in your folder. It's nice because the Sharpie sits on it a little bit better, I think, than it would if you were working on copy paper or printer paper. So I'm gonna just kind of do this. And now I'm gonna look at it and think, okay, maybe I wanna thicken up this line too, so that it kind of matches what's over here. And this as well. And then you're going to repeat these elements in all of the other parts of the design. And as they repeat, they will enhance the rotational symmetry. So I'm going to put another circle around here, and I'm going to put a line here, and I'm going to put a line here, and then I'm going to put now, am I happy with that? No. Can I do something else there? Yeah, I'm gonna put some dots in here. The point of the mandala is that the design and the creation become meditative, so that as you're working, you can kind of think about other things. The important thing here, hey, there's a bell, is that whatever I do in this segment, I have to do as a reflection in the others.